Hello and welcome to another episode of Triple Tap. We are now up to episode number 13. It's very exciting that you're all here with us, and hopefully you guys can all hear us loud and clear. You guys won't be able to turn on your videos. Only our speakers and our hosts will have their videos turned on this evening, but please do make use of our chat box tonight and be asking any questions of our speakers along the way. First of all, we'd just like to welcome Lance and Kim, who are here with me co-hosting today. So how are you both this week? We'll start with you, Kim. Ladies first. How's your week been?
Thanks, Ainsley. Evening, everybody. Week has been great and busy as usual. Things are pushing along in so many different directions at the moment. So, but it's great to see some things coming into fruition. So good week.
Excellent. And I know you're such a busy lady. You've always got so many things going on, and we really appreciate you being here as part of Triple Tap tonight. So thank you, filling in for Kent. Lance, how's your week been? You've been super, super busy.
Thanks, guys. Look, great to be here again. I love this segment. Yeah. Some ups and downs. Everything's been positive. The really shocking thing for me at the moment is just the exposure of how many grifters. And I'm going to use the word grifters because that's the social media terminology that everyone's happy with. And they're exposing themselves at like a rapid rate. And it's disappointing, but it's part of the process. It's going to happen. I'm going to say to everybody listening, keep your eyes open, keep your head engaged, and you're going to see this happen.
Yeah, thank you, Lance. It certainly is a lot of time to use a lot of discernment and a lot of inner intuition and wisdom and question everything and, of course, do our due diligence very, very thoroughly. Well, we are excited about another episode of Triple Tap tonight. We've got another multiple speaker interview tonight, so this is going to be really, really exciting. And I'm just going to quickly read a very small bio on this group of lovely ladies who we're about to introduce to you. And they are from the Queensland Health Practitioner Alliance. QHPA is what they're abbreviated to. This is a group of medical, complementary and allied health professionals who have joined forces to support medical freedom and ethics and maintain their right to practice their professions free of coercion, mandates, censorship and discrimination. This group is united by a vision to restore ethics and patient-centered healthcare back into medicine and to create a truly integrative health and wellness model to support every individual in the community to achieve optimal health, which is a United Health Australia. It was founded by Simone Matthews and Karen McElroy, and of course joined by Emily and Heidi. So ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to welcome these four ladies to the call. So ladies, can you hear us? If you can, jump on. We'd love to see you. There we go. There's Simone, there's Karen. Welcome ladies. There's Heidi and of course Emily. So welcome ladies. How are you all this evening? And welcome to Triple Tap.
Great, thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Excellent.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Go, Kim.
Yeah,
Sorry.
guys, in the discussion.
Oh, thank you, ladies, so much for joining us tonight. I'm really excited to have you on. I'm a bioresonance practitioner myself, so I feel quite blessed that I'm able to actually talk to you ladies as well. So I think we'll kick it off with Karen, if you'd like to just give an overview of the Queensland Health Practitioners Alliance, how it was started and how much it's grown from when it was initiated.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so it started back when the mandates were first announced, and I called a small meeting in my clinic up at Noosa, which we thought was just going to be a bunch of colleagues, but it quickly grew once the word got out amongst a range of more people on the coast, and we ended up having to close the doors and have Zoom links for people wanting to hear about a united front, I guess, in terms of what we were going to do as health professionals, in the light of the mandates that came in. So Simone and I, we'd already been kind of connecting a little bit before that, looking at localized kind of community networks and things on the coast. And so after that meeting, it kind of just more or less morphed into this small but very rapidly growing collective of practitioners, which we kind of named and got a website up and running within a week. And then we ended up speaking at one of the rallies down in Brisbane. And so, yeah, we went from, a few hundred to a few thousand very quickly over a period of weeks and months. And I guess we just were really initially banding together to raise awareness, to kind of pool our resources if we're looking at any legal action, and also to have that political kind of activism aspect as well around how we could sort of get together and see what we could do as a collective rather than one or two people feeling a bit helpless. So yeah, so that's how we started, and then grew rapidly, as I said, from the different from the rallies and all the different ways that we were reaching out to practitioners and people finding us through that. And I guess I'd say from early on as well, we realised that it wasn't really about fighting to keep the old system. It was actually about trying to see how we could re-envisage a new system. And that's kind of been a lot of our focus in particularly this year as well. So that's probably a good overview.
That's an awesome overview. What an exciting time to be in natural medicine. I mean, COVID has been a catalyst for incredible change. And one of the biggest changes we've seen is people looking now for options. So, and there is difficulties, and we understand there's been huge pushback against the natural medicine organisation in this area, but there's clever ways, and that's what we need to work together as a team. I recently spoke at the Sunshine Coast, and a lady up there was doing the MMS treatments. So she registered as a church, and that was the holy water. So that's the clever way to get around some of these solutions, so you can keep practicing, keep doing what we need you to do. And it's all about looking at this system that they've created and finding the ways to defeat it, and defeat it where there's no risk to yourselves. So that was very simple, I thought, and very clever. Is there a need for a peak body though, with an organisation like this that still does the clinical studies, does that research, so we deliver the best possible outcome? And
yeah,
anyone's
sure. Simone, do you want to jump in on that one, maybe, just so it's spread out?
Yeah. Reiterate, we're a broad spectrum of health practitioners, everything from allied health, complementary health, right through to medical practitioners and specialists. So it's quite unique in the modern history of medicine for so many different modalities to come together with a united message. So I think from that template, our vision is, Lance, as you were referring to, is really to now look at ways how we can collaborate with other health alliances that have sprung up all around Australia, with other health bodies that have come, or freedom movements that have come up. And how can we, even though we've got such diversities of maybe viewpoints, and as you mentioned, Lance, different ways of maybe finding ways to practice, we've got different viewpoints, but what can we really focus upon that unites us? And with that particular value system, I think we can find strength in developing a healthcare system of the future that's very much education-based, that is not just science that's materialistic as its foundation, but also helps to embody the whole person. And so I think it's, whilst it's this moment that we're experiencing has caused so much suffering in so many respects, I think the system's been broken for a long time. It just didn't happen in 2020. And this is an opportunity to, as Buckminster Fuller would say, when the system's broken, create a new one. And so to bring a united front in medicine based on values that connect us, I think is a really powerful opportunity for Australia, but also globally.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I know it was funny at the very start of COVID, actually, our bioresonance machines were actually deregistered as a medical device with the TGA. And that was a very telling moment when they did that right at the beginning of it. And we've come up about the the Australian company for it has come up against a lot of resistance. So it's really wonderful to see that you're right. From little things, big things grow much bigger and much better. So can you just let everyone know what the Queensland Health Practitioners Alliance can offer its members?
Karen, do you want to look at
Yeah,
that?
sure. Yeah.
Sure. Well, at the moment, we're in a little bit of a transition as well. So we've kind of currently had members join us when we started a membership sort of process in the new year, after kind of cobbling everything together on a, you know, basically, as Simone and I worked very hard, and it kind of had a life of its own in many respects. So we're always playing catch up with the demands and the numbers and the people involved, and even the interstate people wanting to know, did they have a chapter in New South Wales or Victoria, and what were we doing down there? And we were like barely keeping up with what was going on here. So we've sort of put a membership platform together in the new year, and it's really just offering, we have obviously educational, we have a fortnightly Zoom, a connection point. We've also got community member options, so not just practitioner member options. And I guess that's where we're at the moment in how we can develop further with that. We had a lot of issues at the beginning of a lot of practitioners sort of obviously being unable to practice or on the outside of the system with the whole mandates. But then we had a lot of community members constantly contacting us, wanting to get their hands on professionals who weren't vaccinated or who could be more open-minded and pro-choice. Which was very difficult. We obviously couldn't give out names and addresses, as we all know. There's huge security and safety concerns, especially with all your particularly medical and professionals that are under the APRA regulation. So that was really challenging. So we were trying to work out how we could best, you know, get everyone together and have this community hub. And that's been kind of quietly happening, I guess, along the lines, but we've been really looking, and that's where Heidi and Emily have stepped in as project managers to look at how we can now move our QHPA forward into some sort of a united Australia type network. And maybe Heidi and Emily, one of you might like to jump on and just share a little bit about what you've been doing with us for us the last couple of months.
Yeah, sure. We can divulge a little bit more on that. So we came on board with Simone and Karen a few months ago, and yeah, they put it out there for project managers to come on board to help them, I guess, steer this beast that they've created, and because it's a huge undertaking that they've done, and they created so much in such a short amount of time, but could see that the demand there, and the community grew. I don't know if you mentioned it, Karen, but within a very short amount of time, about 5,000 members came on board. So I guess we came on our experiences in project management and events, and marketing, both Heidi and myself, and we have a huge passion in wellness as well. So the role really spoke to us, and I guess our main objectives when we came on board was to really firstly understand what the mission of QHPA was and the values, and really get deep into that with the steering committee that are on board, and especially with Simone and Karen, because they sort of built it from the ground up very quickly. So we delved into that, and also devised steps for taking QHPA to the next level, whatever that may be. So I guess that's the crossroads where we're at, is where does this organization go? And with that, we realized market research was the number one task to take on. So we conducted a market research survey over the last 6 weeks. We put it out to our community and the broader public as well. So we obviously wanted to gain feedback from all over Australia and from a broad audience as to what people wanted and what they needed out of a healthcare system. and a new model. So we've sort of only just we've closed that and gained all the feedback. And so we're just collating all of that at the moment. And just some really interesting findings. I don't know if you want me to sort of go into that now, or is that helpful at this
Absolutely.
stage?
Yeah.
So I won't go into a lot of detail, but obviously the market research survey was targeted. We have a lot of different sorts of audiences, practitioners being one, obviously, that are affected with the mandates, and then there's the community of whether they're patients or broader community, and also affiliated organisations. And also students. So we tailored the survey to tap into all of these audiences. So it was really interesting to see the feedback with that. And one of the things being that 40% of the practitioners from the survey said that they weren't able to currently work because of the mandates, which is a fairly high amount. And the other sort of 60% were primarily self-employed, so meaning perhaps they weren't under APRA, they were self-employed, so they could continue working. The mandates didn't affect them, and a lot of the wording that came through with the responses was that people were really looking for a healthcare system that had integrity, honesty, choice, that was patient orientated, freedom, and holistic. That was some of the keywords that came through. So that was quite encouraging, because that's what Karen and Simone sort of started this. And when we spoke to the steering committee, they were certainly the values that came through of what this model should integrate and reflect. So that's sort of what we've been doing, and then looking at obviously collaborating with other organizations, freedom groups, and so forth, to see what everyone else is doing, especially in the health space, and having some really productive conversations. To try not to reinvent the wheel, and see that, and start banding together to move forward. So we're currently looking at how that looks and what we can offer.
Nice.
So how big is the natural health practitioner industry in Australia? How many different specialities and numbers of those people, naturopaths, osteopaths, this sort of stuff? What are we talking about?
We don't have the actual numbers to that, because many of the different health modalities don't have registering bodies to them. So there isn't like a published list of health practitioners, which has been partly a bit of a struggle in our industry, but ironically during this moment has actually worked to our benefit, because it has enabled us to have more freedom in our own individual modalities. So the irony there. But when we look at studies that have been done in the past for the percentage of Australians that use, I'll call it complementary health medicine. I don't really like to call it alternative. It is somewhere between 60 to 80%. And that can be anything from nutritional supplements to actually seeing a complementary health therapist. What is really, I think, very much interesting about this moment over the last couple of years, and something that I think really heartens me, because I'm a naturopath and herbalist myself, is the conversation has really opened up about, what is healthcare? Never before, I think, has it really been so much in the public domain where people have openly discussed proactive healthcare. Like the government said the only thing that you could do is, lock down, stay in your homes, can only get exercise and get limited sunshine and fresh air. Whereas suddenly people were discussing, well, what can I do for my health? You know, could be the role of vitamin D or zinc or vitamin C or fresh air, sunshine for the vitamin D. And so I think it started a global snowball conversation of, well, I actually have a fair amount of authority over my body. I can actually support my immune system. I have an innate immune system. My body is incredibly intelligent and knows how to heal itself. We can just look to our First Nations Originals people to see that, who lived here for probably a good 90,000 years without the type of healthcare system we have here in Australia today.
No disease.
Yes, without disease, dentistry and those sorts of things. So we have this moment of, well, what is a healthcare system of the future? What does it look like? We don't need to use the template of what we see now, because that's very much profit-driven, corporate-driven, a top-down approach. And I think, like, you know, Emily was saying, and how, you know, Karen was saying, you know, we're in a state of transition because we're building something from the bottom up, rather than a pyramid approach of being told what to do, or doctors sort of feeling like they're on the strings, or the puppet masters of opera and can't speak up. What is a system driven for the people, like by the people? So starting with a survey of like, well, what do people want for their healthcare? And how do we create a model that enables people to have freedom of choice and education as an important part of healthcare? Education and freedom of choice to begin with. You know, one of the hardest things, if people went to the doctor to find out, well, you know, I'm a bit concerned about the jab, the only thing a doctor could say was, well, you have to have it. It's good. And, you know, without saying the truth, well, it's safe and effective, you know, without the truth. You know, it's never been used on humans. It's new technology, and it is a stage 3 clinical trial. And now we have the results, which we can look at the evidence, which shows how damaging it can be. And for particularly children, you know, the risk of an adverse event is much higher than COVID itself. So that is an unethical medicine to hand out to healthy people.
I'm always very biased on COVID. It's not something I find very interesting. And I've always said right from the start, the vaccine is an IQ test, right? And I know that sounds cruel, and I know a lot of good people took it. You know, my oldest daughter was one of those people. So, yeah, it's an important issue, but it was all about our freedom of choice too. Did we take it? Did we not take it? Were we coerced? Well, I mean, the best job in the world is not worth dying for. And that's the basic reality. And we all, look, if you didn't know it was a clinical trial, I don't know where you were getting information from. So these things should have been researched. But if we look at education, which is fundamental for health, nutrition, and exercise, how much of big pharma can we replace?
A lot of it.
I'll let you do that one, Karen.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, it depends on the framework that you're operating out of, but we obviously have a lot of deep faith in the body, as someone said, to heal itself and regulate. So illness is being created to make money, essentially. So we know that big pharma does, you know, make profit, I guess, off illness. And so it's a long follow the money. It's always the adage to use with any of these things, really. So I think, yeah, if we support the body with all the right tools, it's a pretty awesome ability to self-regulate. And even, you know, to be honest, even post-vaccination, I've seen a lot of patients with injuries, but the body's also remarkably able to heal and recover. So I think it's still important to be really positive and see that evolutionary drive and that natural healing capacity within the body is hopefully going to help long term. Certainly some people haven't had, you know, it doesn't happen in every case, but you can certainly see that using some natural remedies as well, and nutrients and detox processes and so on has been very helpful for people to help with that. But ultimately, yeah, it's like a much bigger story beyond COVID, as you've said, Lance, and it's more about how do we bring together now a model that is going to be for the future, and this united sort of collaborative view on health and wellness and preventative medicine. I mean, 80%, I guess, of the modern illnesses that we have are preventable. So that's the rough statistics, I guess they say, in terms of chronic disease. So if 80% of the coffers could be reduced, we can see what we're up against, right? Like they're not going to relinquish that in any kind of hurry. But that's the reality, that's the positive to take from this, that we can really band together. It's been really exciting seeing some of the other groups. You're probably aware of COVID Medical Network and then the World Council for Health and the Natural Health Alliance. There's a range of groups that have formed globally as well as locally in Australia in response to this. And again, we're really looking at building bridges, and I think the whole freedom movement itself needs to come together. I feel like that is a bit of a problem with the fragmentation of everything, as we probably all know, and it's just staying in the old mentality, right? It's staying in this us and them, this conflict energy and this polarity, and I don't think that's the future of where we're meant to be heading on every level of society, not just on this level. So I do think we need to kind of set egos aside, move on. Like we're quite happy for QHPA if that ends up, joining with some other group that's doing it, and we can unite together for a united Australian healthcare system. Well, we're all for that. It's really about finding how we can have that economies of scale and all of that is really important to be creating something that's viable, that's robust, that's going to take us forward. So, yeah.
I think with the health industry, it's important to sort of draw the difference between the health industry and the freedom movement. Now, the health industry is something that we used to the commercialization of it. Okay, it doesn't have to be as, you don't need vascular surgeons earning $3 million a year. I get that point, even though they're really skillful people. I get it. We shouldn't have had the problem in the first place, but we do. And so they earn the money. You guys, you provide a service, you expect to get paid. But then the biggest problem in the freedom movement is not ego. The biggest problem in the freedom movement is money. So you look to the groups that love the money, and this is where we say, follow the money, find the evil, okay? And you see them. They're not freedom movements. They are just banks, and they're just there taxing all the good people of Australia's money, and it's just about distribution. And that's what it is. So we've tried many times, and we will work with anybody, any good group. You keep your shirt on, I'll keep my shirt on, but we work together and we achieve a common goal. But always it comes down to this insatiable greed. And I think greed is the biggest disease on the planet. That's why we have 3-4 million people starving to death every year globally, because of the greed. You're dealing with hundreds of trillions of dollars worth of wealth. We've just spent trillions of dollars on this genocide project. We can fix starvation tomorrow, but we haven't. And that's to do with the greed. And that's to do with, we don't love our fellow men. We don't love our neighbor. We don't look after each other. We're getting better. And this is really highlighting it. And we've seen such a response. We've seen beautiful organizations like yours come about and people working for good. And I can tell you, in this team here doing the interview, we understand the commitment that comes from this and the sacrifice. And it's right throughout your whole life. There's that family sacrifice time. There's the monetary sacrifice. There's everything you're sacrificing, for the betterment of humanity. And you ladies are exactly the same. You understand that sacrifice. And where you don't find that sacrifice, where you find the monetization in the freedom movement, invariably, they're bad actors.
And look, I hear what you're saying, Lance, but I think Karen and I will, for a start, we haven't taken a cent. This has all been completely volunteered and in our own time, and we've done it as a labor of love and a vision for what is possible, because I think as healthcare providers ourselves, we have a deep love and reverence for our profession and what it represents. and the ability for everyone to be able to access healthcare, and healthcare from a platform of educated freedom of choice and a bigger vision of affordability. And I could go on and on there. But we've tried to rise up above those aspects that you've mentioned, and the groups we've been collaborating with are incredibly visionary and hold a value system that is, you could even say, without getting too spiritual here, like deeply soulful. And what I mean by that, I think that holds a sense of ethical morals that speak to the human condition and what we're capable of growing and evolving and envisioning together. You know, like one such group that comes to mind, I mean, here in Australia, COVID Medical Network, they've been doing some amazing work and with AMPS, which has just been incredible. But also we've been collaborating with many groups offshore so we can learn what's happening globally. And so, you know, as Karen said, like, not to reinvent the wheel, what can we learn from that and share our resources? And one such group is the World Council for Health, you know, Tez Laurie's group, and many other people involved with that in the UK. And they hold a set of value system very, very similar to ours. And so you look at the group of volunteers there as well, and the vision that they're holding for healthcare, and their vision of rolling out chapters around the globe. You know, as Karen said, you know, we're trying to, at this point in time, and with the aid of Emily and Heidi, find the best way to move forward. How can we collaborate and align with all of these groups to become something? I think there's strength and power in numbers where we can pool resources, exactly what Karen said, you know, economies of scale. How can we hold that vision and be able to have that value system that is what collectively brings us together, even though we may look at things quite differently from country to country, and use that as a platform moving forward? That's really where we're standing here at the moment. And I kind of see what has evolved over the last couple of years as being quite miraculous for health, and using that as a platform to build a new healthcare system really shows an incredibly bright and wonderful future. So is a kind of like a rainbow or a silver lining out of the darkness at the moment. But I think it takes, you know, what's that saying, you know, where I'm trying to remember the full saying, but essentially it takes for good men and women to stand up for evil, not to dwell. And I think the collaborations that we've been making are amazing people around the world who hold humanity deepest in their heart, and change is happening.
Fantastic. Ladies,
absolutely, it's happening.
Sorry, Lance, can I just ask a question from
you go, Ainsley?
One of our audiences? I'm just following the chat book, guys, as they're asking questions are coming in. And someone asked here, are these, I'll change the word to alternative because I know you like to use complementary, are these complementary practitioners that are coming on board covered by any form of insurance? Have you got your own insurance? Do they have to organise their own?
Do you want to answer that, Karen?
At the moment, we don't offer. That's one of the things we were looking at when we did the survey. Would practitioners of the future want us to be a body that allowed like continuing professional education, insurance, etc.? So at the moment, everyone is just still getting their own private insurance. So if there's no change to that as is, everyone before. A lot of the professional associations organise like professional indemnity insurance under a group banner, which gives discounts and things. As far as I know, that's still continuing to now. Associations haven't like rejected members or anything based on their choices around the injection. So yeah, I think, but Ian Deach is a person, he's a chiropractor who's been doing a whole lot of work on creating an alternative insurance scheme for all sorts of professionals. He's starting with chiropractors, but there's expressions of interest for other complementary medicine professionals as well, where people who want to move into getting out of the associations and getting out of the registration boards that can actually have insurance, because that's obviously one of the bigger things in practicing. Needing to have insurance coverage these days is obviously foundational. So yeah, that's probably answered that. But we'll see what happens, because if depending where we go and what other groups like COVID Medical Network, however they may evolve into more of a registrative type body, you know, can have memberships which allow them to offer more. And that's where we do have to charge, okay, because we all know, I mean, QHPA is being run on volunteers and donations, but you know, it costs a lot of money to run websites and to have mail lists, and you know, it's an extraordinary amount of cash that needs to keep going just to have a monthly kind of presence doing these things. So we do, even though we're mindful of it being a not-for-profit and all of that, there's nothing about profiteering from it, but we still need to have income to be able to allow associations and organisations to continue, as you're probably aware. I'm not sure what TAP's process is there, but yeah, we've kind of, that was part of why we had a small membership fee to allow us to continue to support the membership, and moving forward that would continue to happen, especially if there was more things being offered. I suppose it would require, you know, at the moment I think people would spend hundreds of dollars on different registration bodies and insurance, so thousands probably in many cases. So if that could be condensed down, it could actually be a lot of cost savings for professionals as well, when you lose a lot of the red tape. And if these associations that create new ones that aren't looking to make profit but just wanting to, you know, break even and have that support, that would be a potential benefit as well. So,
and I don't think members mind paying small fees to get involved in things like this, as long as they can see like value for money and things like that. They're happy to contribute those small amounts of money to help you guys kick over things like, you know, websites and hosting and all those things which chew up, you know, time and money to run. Fully aware of that. So yeah, I think, you know, one friend said to me, no one should be denied healthcare due to a lack of money. So we just got to find a way to help as many people as we can.
Yeah, I think, and you're right, this is forming organically, and it is spiritual, and communities are coming together. I recently spoke in Cairns to a group who are from Kuranda down to Cairns. So it was about 400 people, and you can just tell their lifestyle. They live a different lifestyle, and it's all based around community and nutrition, you know, a clean environment. They're all health conscious, and they're all healthy people. So this change is happening. And so you get the people who are practicing in those areas, they join your group, and there's a membership for being part of this group because you offer an awesome service. So that's how you get your funding. And that is just normal commerce. And their customers pay for their service. And this is how the system runs. So I don't have a problem with that. What I do have a problem with is these big freedom groups that have 60,000 members, and all their members pay $4 a month. So do the maths on that. That's a lot of money coming in, a lot of liquidity, right? But they don't get anything for that. But they think because they're paying, they're doing something worthwhile. And that's a human condition that's easily exploited. So I think we've got to avoid that. And then you get some crazy person get up on stage and say, look, we're going to create a new World Health Organization. So I don't think we really need to recreate the World Health Organization. Global connectivity I can see is awesome because the discoveries are made all over the planet. But we certainly don't need a corrupt organization like the WHO or even try and replicate it. I suppose that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I think it's quite incredible what has come out of this whole last couple of years in particular, and the number of medical doctors, nurses, etc., as well as the complementary health practitioners joining together. Have you found that the medical doctors, nurses, etc., are really starting to embrace complementary therapy as well throughout this journey?
In my experience with the people that I've spoken to and members of our group, as I said, QHPA is incredibly diverse. and also, you know, incorporates a real diversity of opinions of this moment too, and how to ride the wave of all of this. Within that, you know, diversity, I think there is a sharing of information, a sharing of our own individual health modalities, and a willingness to learn from one another. And I think that's kind of a microcosm of something that's happening on a bigger scale as well, where people maybe never before are really critically thinking or challenging or asking questions. Maybe there's things that they've just taken for granted. Maybe they've never thought about, as an example, when they had their children vaccinated when they were younger. They never questioned it because isn't that just something that you do? Whereas suddenly now there is a sharing of information and going, well, why has that always been done? Where did the studies come from that showed the safety and efficacy of that? Are there actual studies done? So I think there is a grander evolution happening of people, both in the health practitioner field, but also society at large, that people are asking some of those harder questions, of maybe challenging the status quo like never before. And from that platform, being able to critically think, you start to, I don't know, awaken some sense of self-authority, some sense of empowerment, and you start to take back aspects of your life that you may not even realize that you'd handed over the authority of that to somebody else. So I think, you know, there is a beautiful microcosm happening that I could see within QHPA of sharing of resources. So we would have, you know, regular Zooms where all members come together, and a health practitioner would share certain aspects, whether it's regards to EMFs and 5G, depending on their specialty, whether it could be the sort of supplements that you would take for either supporting yourself with your immunity, or maybe if you'd had COVID, to support your recuperation. So I think within our organisation, as a microcosm, there's been also a deep aspect of learning from one another. And that, isn't that a beautiful way to evolve our science and our medical field for the future?
Excellent. Ladies, can I ask
Absolutely.
you, how can complementary, I was about to say alternative, how can complementary practitioners and members actually get hold of you and maybe become part of your movement, your organisation? Where can they find you? Where can they connect with you?
Yeah, the best place would be to go straight to our website, qhpa.org, Queensland Health Practitioners, so qhpa.org. And we have to sign up for our email list. That would be the quickest thing to do. You'll get a regular email once a week, which will keep you up to date on certain things that are happening within the industry, keep you up to date with what we're doing. You'll get invited to join our regular Zoom meetings that we have, which are educational based. And from there, if you decide to join up as a member, we've really kept the costs down low. It enables you then to have your own login private area to our website, where we have a whole realm of different health resources that many of our health practitioners have posted on there. So, and it also enables you to watch all of the Zoom replays as well. So, the best place to go would be to go to our website, sign up to the email list, and then you can start being a part of our organisation, but also to be part of envisioning a future possibility as we go through this transitional phase of collaboration with many organisations, both within Australia and internationally.
Thanks, Simone. For all our listeners out there, you'll find in the chat box that we've put that website for Queensland Health Practitioners Alliance on the chat box there. And when we pop up this replay, we'll also put that link there so that you guys can go and check out Queensland Health Practitioners Alliance and choose to become members or complementary practitioners and support them in that way.
So what else can we do to help? Because you're doing fantastic work. how do we help get this message out there? How do we get more people on board with your activity?
Maybe Emily, do you want to jump on with that, with any ideas there? Yeah. Or Heidi, even if she's still around.
I think the main thing at this stage is that the survey that we have out in the public is still live. So we'd love to share that, with the TAP community. And like I said, it doesn't have to be complementary practitioners or doctors or any practitioners. We want the community, the broad community, to gain their feedback to see what it is, because obviously we don't want to create something that people don't need or want. And if anyone has any ideas, we're all very open-minded, and like we've all said, we want to collaborate and work with other groups and other people that have this shared vision to move forward. Otherwise it's really not going to move forward in a quick process.
Cool. Emily, would you mind popping that, if you have that link handy, to
Yeah.
that survey in the chat
Sure.
for us, and we'll
I'll
also
get that.
put that up with
Yeah.
the replay. That would
Yeah.
be fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll get that now.
Thank
We can get that up. Part of our broader organisation, we have a team of people who are doing something very similar, not the same, but they're working on a health and wellness project, and I'm wondering if that wouldn't be better off integrating with you guys to give you, that sort of horsepower and the volunteer effort that they're spending. We can also have a chat to those guys too and see what they think about that.
Yeah, I think the more that all the groups around Australia collaborate and join together and come together on a set of values, that I think, if you brought all the groups together, they're all going to have diverse viewpoints of how to handle this moment, but what are the key things that actually unite everyone? And I think everyone could agree on to have healthcare that's education-based, that's freedom of choice, that isn't mandated, that is very much patient-centered, that is confidentiality, that the doctor could actually, or medical practitioner, can freely share science, truth, viewpoints without being told what to do. And then for the patient to have confidence that their information is going to be confidential and the patient files aren't going to be taken off and distributed to who. So, I think if we can come together on that sort of value system platform, that really unites everybody, and then find a way to move forward as a united voice from there, I think is a very powerful platform, something to be reckoned with, and will actually create something that is called a united healthcare system here for Australia. We haven't branded it as United Health Australia, and we're not pushing it to be seen as QHPA has created this. It is a united healthcare system Australia, and it is going to be a collaboration of groups coming together and creating it for Australians, healthcare. When we think of even the word health, where it comes from the Old English word hail, which means wholeness. So, I think it starts with us. If we can't collaborate and become whole and hold that model of what healthcare is, well, it's really not going to happen. It starts with us, and we're opening up that door and really looking forward to what can be created from this moment on.
All through my childhood, all growing up, there was the word doctor was right up on the highest platform, right? There's certain documents that you need a court or a JP to sign, and one of those people that was qualified out of all the professions was doctor. Do you think this will be a time in history when the word doctor may lose a lot of its prestige, and that may be replaced with health practitioner?
Oh, I don't know about that. It's an interesting question, Lance. I think it is true. And I think we've even found within the QHPA, there's still doctors and specialists with that hierarchical approach, that they they do kind of look down upon the rest of the healthcare setting, you know, but we've got also beautiful doctors as well and specialists in the group who haven't, you know, who we all view each other with equal you know, respect. But yeah, there still is a little bit of that in the system, I think, and it's part of the way they're educated, the way they work through the ranks. You know, some of the doctors we've spoken to have shared about their personal experience like that it becomes that prestige because you have to work, and it's very much keeping everyone, you know, in that tiered kind of hierarchy of, you know, the doctor, the GP, then the specialist, and then the surgeon, you know, all the way up the ranks. And each time you get further up, you earn more money, you get more power and respect in that. So it'll be a bit to dismantle, but it is a really interesting question, I suppose, around, yeah, what it really means. And I think that a lot of the public, to be honest, have lost, well, particularly the ones who've been journeying and waking up, we could say, in the last couple of years, have probably lost respect for doctors. And doctors used to hold a lot more respect than some of them these days, you know, have lost that because they haven't been able to share as openly, or they feel that as well. You know, they've lost that kind of connection and that mutual respect and trust, which is super important for any healthy relationship. So yeah, I don't know, to watch this space, I guess, to see whether but I think there is a flattening and certainly healthcare, as we've seen, you know, we're in the complementary sector, but we represent everyone across all the medical, high-end medical, right through to kind of, you know, even the more, you know, the more fringe, I guess you could say, because certainly naturopathy is not so fringe these days as it once was. But, you know, everyone's got a piece of the puzzle. I think everyone's got a unique gift, and we really see that we've all got something to offer. And if we can all agree on our niche and our specialty and what we do well, whether it's energy medicine through to surgery, right? Like we've all got something to offer. And I think it's wonderful to actually see everyone on that even, you know, respectful platform, that we don't all do the same thing. And isn't that awesome? You know, we're all unique. We each, and I guess the tenet of treating individuals as individuals and working out a unique plan, not just giving them a drug for the same, you know, protocol driven approach, which is how medicine used to be done, was very, very much patient centered. And these days it's much more, you follow the formula, you type in the condition, you get 3 drugs to choose from, and off they go, you know, and that's certainly not a great way to practice. So anyway, that's probably a long-winded answer to your question, but I think it's a nuanced thing to talk about.
Look, I've always admired vets more than doctors, because you go to the doctor, what's the first thing they say? What's wrong with you? So you tell them what's wrong with you. You're self-diagnosed already. You're right 99% of the time, and they look it up and they say, oh, there's some medicine. All right, we'll give you that medicine, go away, come back if you're still sick. If I was diagnosed with cancer, the last resort for me would be surgery or chemo these days, you know, because they're probably the most 2 ineffective treatments for cancer now. We've got a lot of information coming forward, and I don't see the doctors keeping up. That's what I see, and they really let us down with COVID. I mean, what part of clinical trial didn't they understand? What part of Operation Warp Speed produce a formula over a weekend on a computer and let's get it in production and out to the world in 9 months, you know? Let's fake all the clinical trials. What part of this didn't they get?
I think it's I would absolutely love to see a re-education program come into the universities. Well, obviously it starts at the schools, pre-primary, high school, but in particular the university education for doctors, and what they have to go through and how they're taught, not in the physical sense as in the physical body, but just to diagnose and hand out almost what they have been told to hand out by pharmacies. So, you know, pull it back from the monetary side of things into the focus of more patient health side of things. And who knows, with you guys growing, Who knows where that could
Absolutely.
lead, you know?
Well,
Well, we're living
think-
in the Great Awakening. So we're going to see these changes. You ladies are on the forefront of this change. And I think you're going to replace most of the doctors. I think the surgical will probably be around for a while, maybe some of the other specialities. But
Well, I think to be honest, we need everyone. We need everyone in the system who's there, but we just need a more comprehensive and patient oriented and you know, that's the thing. I don't think we need to replace. We still a lot of amazing professionals out there on the last, even though we say, you know, it's the last to criticize the medical professionals, because in the times of surgery or accidents or injuries, acute care, like you're not going to go see a naturopath, right? If you've just been in a car accident. So we have to respect what everyone offers and brings to the table, and everyone has a stake in the health, you know, pie. And we should all see that we've all got a niche there. And certainly for preventative wellness and you know, keeping people healthy and well, which, you know, in the old Chinese medicine system, you only got paid as a practitioner when your patient was well. And when they got sick, they stopped giving you money because you'd failed essentially keeping them well healthy, which is completely different to how we obviously operate. But I always feel like I've done my job properly when I don't need to see my patients, right? Like that's the whole point. If I'm doing my job right, they're looking after themselves well and they're self, you know. So I think we need everyone there. I don't think it's about replacement. I think it's about actually bringing a much more comprehensive system that holds everything, a bigger container that is about wellness and prevention. The irony is, of course, public health dollar is huge, but most of that is not around true preventative health. It's appalling, as we know. So there could be so much overhauled with those basic tenets, bringing back into the overall public health system as well. But it's a big ask and a long journey.
No, I agree wholeheartedly with that, Karen. I think it is an opportunity for all health practitioners to band together. And the way that I kind of envision it is like, imagine a piano keyboard, and each note is an individual health modality. So there isn't a hierarchy of a particular note being better than the other. They all hold their own unique resonance, and they all offer something quite magical to the harmony or the melody or the symphony of healthcare. And so, you know, you can't play a Beethoven Symphony of Health without having C notes, which could be the medical doctors as an example. I think every note has its own individual role. Maybe what has happened to healthcare is like some notes have developed over time into a structure where they feel they're more important than other notes. Whereas when we see...
Hijacked by money. Hijacked by the commercial interests, I think, even more so.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And then you've got the government trying to all corral us into one particular octave of notes of healthcare, of being told what to do, or, you know, we're herded like sheep. I think our ex-Prime Minister even used that term. So, you know, but when we expand ourselves out and have this incredible freedom of choice for people, because one person, the sort of healthcare that they seek will be very different than what another person actually requires or needs. So I agree wholeheartedly with what Karen's saying. I think it's important to respect all health practitioners, but to create or foster a system where no particular healthcare modality is better than another. It's part of a very diverse and integrative system that offers freedom of choice.
Yep.
And just on that, to finish, sorry, to say, in the part of that, the importance, as I think you alluded to a little earlier on, Lance, even, is it's super important that we have trained professionals, though, and we can't, because of unregulated industries, as we know, there's always going to be the sort of cowboys come in and be able to masquerade and do that. So that's where I guess the training and the registration, all the things that came originally to safeguard the public, right? We need to make sure people aren't charlatans or are doing the right thing and not killing people or harming people. So I think that regulation that was kind of rightfully there on some level has been taken obviously to another whole level, way beyond what it needed to be. And people have lost self-responsibility now as well. And they can just obviously, this litigious kind of society litigious, I should say, society that we're in promotes that as well. So anyway, that's another whole thing. But I think it's just important to see that, we need that uniformity. I love the piano analogy, Simone, that's beautiful. And I think I agree with that as well. And I just see a comment by Bet Joy in the, he's one of our members actually, and she's recommending homeopathic arnica for an accident, which I would agree is the first thing to do. I was meaning more of you are chopped in half, but yes, arnica is a good remedy. It's not going to stitch you up though, but yes, we can always use, and this is the other thing, it's about unification, because we can do, and I often prescribe things alongside, you can still do mainstream medical alongside complementary as well. That's the whole point, right? It's about finding that unique, personalized approach that gives you the best of both worlds, really, when it's relevant. Yeah.
Well, ladies,
All about
absolute pleasure having you on this evening. Look, I, for one, a young woman growing up with a mother who was a nurse, a father who was a pharmacist, it was just natural for us to, whatever was wrong, to pop a pill. And, that's how we grew up. But I'm very grateful in the last decade that I've had my eyes open to these complementary ways and these natural health remedies. And that's kind of been my modality now, that I was like, no, I just don't want to take any pills and potions. I would rather go down the natural path. Before we close off this evening, I want to give each and every one of you an opportunity to just, if you had a final message to give to our fellow Australians out there listening, or who watch the replay, what would it be? Can we start with you, maybe Emily? And I think Heidi's still on the call with us. Heidi, if you're there and you'd like to jump on as well. There she is.
I start if you like, Emily.
Yeah, you go for it.
I guess the thing that I would just encourage, Emily's popped the survey link in the chat. The survey, the majority of the responses had, because we've gone out to the Queensland Health Practitioner Alliance community, most of the audience are from Queensland. So we'd really like to see a much more broader representation of Australia. So we're hoping that, perhaps tapping into the TAP community that has a broader reach in the community, that we are going to get a much more representative view of, what people are looking for in a healthcare, in a new healthcare model for the future. So I would just encourage everyone to do the survey. Thank you.
Fantastic. So you've heard that, everyone, from Heidi. Make sure you go get that survey link in the chat right now before we close, and we will put that in the replay so that you can all go out and help HPA get what they need from that. So Emily, what would your final message be to our listeners today?
I think my final message, and it's sort of been a thread throughout our talk, is, I guess coming together and collaborating with other groups and getting involved with other groups and bringing our shared goal together to be able to move forward. I think just from working with QHPA and talking to other organisations, it's just, and where we are at with everything that's going on, I think that's just the most important thing for us all to do at the moment.
Fantastic. Karen?
Okay, I would say something very simple, which is just to trust the innate wisdom of your body to heal.
Nice. And last but by no means least, Simone.
Don't be disheartened during these changing times. Change makes us vulnerable because we don't know the future. But with that, I think gives the potential to seed something quite miraculous. And so when we foster connection and come together and share our stories, we're going to create something quite amazing for the future of healthcare in Australia.
Superb. And I'm sure this is not going to be our last interview with you, ladies. I'm sure we'd love to reconnect with you a little way down the track and see how QHPA is actually progressing and where you're at from where we are now to where you are then. And so I'm sure this won't be our last interview, but it's been an absolute pleasure having the four of you on, Simone, Karen, Emily, Heidi, on this evening, sharing with us what QHPA is all up to. So thank you very much for joining us. Thank you to Kim, thank you to Lance, and thank you to all our listeners out there for joining us on another episode of Triple Tap. Go out, have an amazing week, be unshakable and unstoppable, and we'll see you next time on Triple Tap. Bye for
Thanks, guys.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.